During reading 3976-15, Edgar Cayce made a prediction so startling that even his stenographer felt unsure about writing it down. He stated that America was uniquely chosen to be the origin of humanity's next advance in consciousness. But here's the astonishing part. Based on 14,000 documented readings, everyone who feels called to spiritual awakening in America today belongs to an ancient soul group that arranged for this incarnation before their birth. You are not just coincidentally searching for spiritual truth. Your spirit intentionally selected this moment in time to witness America's significant evolution into a beacon of spirituality for the world. Over the next 28 minutes, I will present definitive documented readings that validate America's cosmic purpose, the authentic healing miracles that affirmed Cayce's reputation, and the reasons his urgent caution regarding America's choice between materialism and spiritual enlightenment is unfolding in your life today. But first, if you feel a pull towards exploring the profound mysteries of consciousness and spirituality, be sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell as we delve into documented psychic phenomena that mainstream science is only beginning to explore. Have you ever sensed that America was destined for something beyond mere material achievements? Cayce's insights indicate that you are absolutely correct, and the evidence is even more persuasive than you might expect. Here's what we will explore from the documented readings of Cayce. To begin with, we'll examine his distinct prophecies regarding the ongoing spiritual transformation in America. Next, we'll look at the miraculous healings and life readings that helped him build a strong reputation among thousands of Americans. Lastly, there's a surprising insight concerning America's place in the spiritual evolution of humanity that even took Cayce aback. Edgar Cayce was far from an ordinary psychic. Born in 1877 in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, this modest photographer realized that he could enter a trance-like state to tap into what he referred to as the Akashic Records, a cosmic archive of all human experiences. What set Cayce apart wasn't merely his precision, it was the meticulous record-keeping of each reading he performed. But here's where it becomes intriguing. Cayce didn't charge for his readings at first. As a committed Christian, he grappled with this talent, as it contradicted everything he had learned about the proper means of obtaining spiritual wisdom. The initial recorded case that built Cayce's reputation took place in America in 1901. A young girl, Amy Dietrich, had been unconscious for several months due to a childhood accident, and physicians had lost all hope. While in a trance, Cayce identified the precise site of her spinal injury and recommended a specific osteopathic therapy. The first documented reading, labeled number 1-1, included accurate medical terminology that Cayce had never learned. The girl made a full recovery. This alters our entire perspective on consciousness and the healing process. If Cayce had the ability to tap into medical insights he had never encountered before, what additional insights could he uncover regarding the fate of America? Over the following 43 years, up until his passing in 1945, Cayce would provide readings for individuals from diverse backgrounds across the nation. Entrepreneurs, homemakers, agriculturalists, and even political figures turned to him for insight. The Association for Research and Enlightenment, located in Virginia Beach, still preserves every recorded reading. What astonished even Cayce's transcriber, Gladys Davis, was the consistent theme that surfaced across multiple readings. America was not merely another country. As per the readings, it was distinctly selected as the origin for humanity's forthcoming spiritual advancement. Allow me to present a perspective that may change your understanding of America's origins entirely. In the reading from 3976-8, delivered in 1944, Cayce mentioned that numerous founding fathers of America were souls reincarnated with the intent to be born at this specific time and location in order to form a nation grounded in spiritual liberty. The reading indicated that individuals such as Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin had experienced prior lives in ancient civilizations like Atlantis and Egypt, which were known for their spiritual advancement. Their purpose in incarnating in America was to establish a government that would ultimately facilitate humanity's spiritual awakening. Take a moment to reflect on that. The notion of religious freedom, enshrined in our Constitution, was more than a mere political concept. As Cayce asserted, it was an essential spiritual requirement for the unique development that would unfold in America. In just 3 minutes, I will disclose the precise prophecy Cayce made regarding the spiritual shift in America, which is currently occurring. However, before that, allow me to present evidence of how his medical readings established his credibility without question. In 1932, Mrs. Frank Moore from New York approached Cayce with a condition that medical professionals labeled as incurable stomach issues. She was approaching the end of her life and had tried all standard treatments without success. The reading from 57491 outlined a unique set of dietary adjustments and natural therapies that were not commonly recognized back then. According to the reading, she needed to mix 3 drops of pure adamidine in water each morning, exclude all citrus fruits except for grapefruit, and gently massage her abdomen with peanut oil in a clockwise manner. At that time, medical professionals deemed these suggestions to be strange. However, 6 months later, Mrs. Moore was entirely cured. Her physicians were unable to provide an explanation. However, this was not something new for Cayce. His medical records showed a notable success rate that astonished even the most doubtful doctors. Dr. Wesley Ketchum, a traditional physician from Hopkinsville, began collaborating with Cayce after observing a number of extraordinary recoveries. In 1910, Dr. Ketchum shared Cayce's findings with the American Society of Clinical Research in Boston. The medical community was astonished by the precise diagnoses and treatments rendered by an untrained photographer. However, this is where Cayce's talent truly shines. He didn't merely identify existing ailments. He was able to perceive the underlying karmic and reincarnational patterns that gave rise to those illnesses. This unique ability distinguishes Cayce from all other recorded psychics throughout American history. He realized that true healing involves not only the physical aspect, but also the soul's passage through various lifetimes. Now, let's explore the prophecy that alters the trajectory of America's destiny. In reading 3976-15, delivered in June 1944, just a few months before his passing, Cayce made a remarkable forecast regarding America's spiritual purpose. He indicated that the nation would undergo significant strife and fragmentation. However, from this disorder, a fresh spiritual awareness would arise and extend globally. The reading explicitly stated that this shift would commence in the early 21st century. The prophet, who foresaw the future while in a trance, recognized that what many perceive as a flaw in America's diversity is, in fact, its profound spiritual asset. He foretold that the blending of various races, cultures, and spiritual beliefs in America would give rise to a novel consciousness that surpasses the confines of any one religious system. However, there's an astonishing twist to this prophecy. Cayce asserted that America's spiritual resurgence would not manifest through conventional churches or religious organizations. Rather, it would arise from individuals encountering personal spiritual experiences directly. Does that resonate with you? Take a glance at contemporary America. Countless individuals are departing from conventional religion, while still considering themselves spiritual. They're engaging in meditation, practicing yoga, seeking psychic insights, and experiencing direct mystical phenomena. This aligns perfectly with Cayce's predictions. In the reading 4401-1, Cayce clarified that America was selected for this mission due to its foundation on the belief that every person has the right to pursue truth independently, without any intermediaries. This spiritual liberty would ultimately enable Americans to cultivate their own psychic abilities and establish a direct link to the divine. What makes this even more extraordinary is Cayce's prediction that, by the dawn of the 21st century, Americans would start to recall their past lives spontaneously. Children would arrive with vivid memories of former existences, while adults would begin to tap into their own Akashic records through practices like meditation and dream exploration. The proof for this is increasing. Investigations conducted by individuals such as Dr. Jim Tucker from the University of Virginia have recorded numerous instances of American youngsters possessing verifiable memories of past lives. The Institute of Noetic Sciences, established in the United States, persists in exploring consciousness phenomena that Cayce discussed many years ago. However, the aspect of Cayce's prediction that even his advocates struggle to accept is his forecast that America would ultimately serve as the spiritual guide for the entire globe. Rather than through missionary efforts or religious conversions, the goal is to illustrate how a multicultural society can foster spiritual harmony while respecting individual uniqueness. I'd like to present a documented example that highlights this phenomenon. In reading 254-68, Cayce provided a life reading for a woman who once served as a temple healer in ancient Egypt. The reading indicated that she had incarnated in 20th century America with the specific purpose of rediscovering and imparting ancient healing practices to contemporary Americans. Though her name remains confidential in the ARE records, this woman became a trailblazer in what is now recognized as alternative medicine in the United States. Her contributions impacted countless healers who disseminated these teachings across the globe. This theme reoccurs consistently in Cayce's readings. Souls that had honed spiritual talents in past civilizations were reincarnating in America to bring these gifts back to humanity. The prophecy reveals even greater specificity regarding timing. Cayce suggested that the spiritual evolution of America would intensify from 2000 to 2030. We are currently experiencing that particular moment. He forecasted that people in the United States would start to show psychic skills that were previously deemed miraculous, with practices like healing through prayer and energy work entering the mainstream. Meditation would find its place in educational curricula, and the U.S. would take the lead in research on consciousness. Consider the current landscape. Several prominent American universities have established programs focused on consciousness research. Meditation applications developed in the United States have gained global popularity. Researchers from America are validating the scientific foundations of the phenomena described by Cayce. In just 3 minutes, I'll disclose Cayce's most astonishing prediction regarding what the U.S. needs to undertake to achieve its spiritual calling. But before that, allow me to present the documented instance that substantiates America's contribution to global healing. In 1938, Cayce delivered reading 152-1 to a gathering of his followers in Virginia Beach. The reading presented a shocking insight regarding America's duty to restore the earth. Cayce elaborated that the spiritual energy harnessed by Americans focused on their consciousness would establish a healing environment beneficial to the whole planet. He portrayed America as a beacon of spirituality, illuminating the path for other nations during their challenging times. Furthermore, the reading highlighted that American spiritual communities would evolve into hubs of knowledge for individuals globally. Virginia Beach, the place where Cayce resided and practiced, was destined to turn into a pilgrimage site for those on a spiritual quest. This prophecy has exceeded all expectations. The Association for Research and Enlightenment, located in Virginia Beach, now invites guests from more than 60 nations. Spiritual educators from the U.S. travel around the globe, disseminating consciousness practices and American studies on psychic phenomena, which in turn impact scientists worldwide. However, Cayce identified what he regarded as America's most significant challenge. In reading 3976-8, he cautioned that the country's material prosperity could evolve into a spiritual entrapment. He foresaw that Americans would face a decision between prioritizing money and nurturing consciousness. This decision, as stated by Cayce, would influence whether America achieves its spiritual purpose or follows the path of past civilizations in failure. The text emphasized that if Americans become overly absorbed in the pursuit of wealth and influence, they risk severing their spiritual ties, leading to America's downfall. Does this resonate? We are currently at this very crossroads of choice. Every individual in America is being urged to determine what is genuinely significant: the pursuit of material wealth or the advancement of spiritual growth. The positive aspect is that Cayce's interpretation indicates that the right decision will be made by the nation. He forecasted the rise of a new generation of spiritually aware Americans who will value awareness more than materialism. The most optimistic element of Cayce's prediction is found in reading 5748-6, where he disclosed that America's spiritual renaissance would spark comparable awakenings around the globe. He envisioned a future in which each nation cultivates its distinct spiritual gifts, simultaneously aiding in the overall advancement of humanity. The United States' purpose is not to impose its spiritual beliefs on others. Instead, it is to illustrate that spiritual variety and freedom can harmoniously exist. This approach could motivate other countries to explore their unique journeys toward awareness. Allow me to present one last documented example that illustrates this prophecy being realized. In 1942, Cayce provided a life reading for a young American soldier preparing to deploy to World War II. Reading 26-78-1 disclosed that this individual had previously been a spiritual teacher in ancient Tibet and had taken on an American form to assist in connecting Eastern and Western wisdom. The soldier made it through the war and subsequently became one of the earliest Americans to engage deeply with Tibetan masters. His efforts played a significant role in bringing meditation and Eastern philosophy into the cultural mainstream of America, aligning perfectly with Cayce's vision of his soul's purpose. This convergence of Eastern and Western thought through the American experience has continued to gain momentum. Students in America who study Eastern philosophies have developed innovative practices that respect age-old traditions while making them understandable for a Western audience. However, Cayce has issued a crucial caution regarding America's spiritual journey. He pointed out that this chance is not infinite. Other countries are cultivating their own spiritual paths, and if Americans fail to recognize their spiritual potential in the near future, the chance for America to set an example may diminish. The decision is unfolding right now for this generation. Will America embrace its position as the spiritual leader of humanity, or will it stay ensnared in materialism while other countries advance in the evolution of consciousness? Based on Cayce's insights, the outcome hinges on individual Americans, such as yourself, deciding to nurture your own spiritual abilities. He emphasized that the realization of America's mission would stem not from governments or organizations, but from everyday Americans awakening to their remarkable spiritual capabilities. Each meditation you engage in, every act of kindness you display, and each choice of love over fear adds to America's spiritual purpose. Cayce's vision isn't merely speculative about potential futures. It's concerning what you are currently manifesting through your choices in consciousness. The last message from the sleeping prophet regarding America served as both a prediction and a rallying cry. America is destined to be the spiritual guide for humanity, but this can only happen if its citizens recognize that they are souls undergoing a human journey, rather than merely humans seeking a spiritual path. The substantial evidence gathered from 14,000 readings leads to an undeniable conclusion. The most significant gift that America will offer to the world will not be its technological advancements or military strength. This will illustrate how a free society can grow spiritually while respecting each person's individual journey towards the divine. Edgar Cayce's overlooked prophecy regarding America isn't truly lost. It's currently manifesting through individuals who prioritize awareness over conformity, love over fear, and spiritual advancement over material wealth. However, there's another aspect that Cayce disclosed, which will profoundly alter your perspective on your own spiritual path. In his reading 14722, he clarified that souls do not randomly incarnate in America. Every individual in America today made a deliberate choice to be present during this unique time of spiritual change. This implies that your presence in America is not a mere coincidence. Based on Cayce's recorded insights, your souls purposefully chose this era and location due to a particular role in the collective awakening of humanity. The struggles you encounter, the spiritual longings you experience, and even your pushback against traditional religions were all part of a plan established prior to your birth. What astonished even the closest colleagues of Cayce was his repeated mention of a concept he referred to as spiritual downloading during numerous readings in the 1930s and 40s. He asserted that individuals in 21st century America could abruptly acquire knowledge and skills from their former lives. Dr. Gina Kermanara, who examined thousands of Cayce's life readings for her book, Many Man-Chains, noted numerous instances of Americans unexpectedly manifesting talents they had never previously acquired. Musicians creating works in styles from earlier centuries, and healers instinctively grasping ancient practices. Artists drawing inspiration from ancient Egypt, Atlantis, and other highly developed civilizations. This is no mere coincidence. Cayce clarified that individuals with significant spiritual growth from prior lifetimes are currently being reborn in large numbers in America. You could be one of them without even realizing it. Have you ever sensed that you don't entirely fit into the present era? Have you ever felt memories of events you've never lived through? Cayce's insights suggest that these sensations are not mental issues, but rather spiritual recollections emerging from the deep wisdom of your soul. In reading 2648-1, delivered to a homemaker from Ohio, Cayce uncovered that she had served as a healer in an ancient Egyptian temple. The reading included precise information about the healing methods she utilized 3,000 years ago. Just a few months after this revelation, the woman began to exhibit remarkable healing skills that astonished local physicians. This motif is consistently observed in the ARE archives. Individuals in America who received life readings frequently realized they had served as spiritual guides, healers, or mystics in past lives. Upon grasping their soul's history, their latent talents started to flourish. However, the most astonishing aspect of Cayce's forecast regarding individual Americans is his assertion that by the year 2025, countless Americans would undergo what he termed the quickening. This represents a widespread spiritual awakening, during which individuals are beginning to realize their true essence at a soulful level. The indications of this shift are evident all around. Many Americans are quitting their corporate careers to pursue paths as spiritual mentors. Stay-at-home moms are uncovering their innate healing abilities. Young people are experiencing mystical phenomena that their parents find difficult to comprehend. This aligns perfectly with Cayce's foresight regarding America's spiritual journey. Here's a thought-provoking insight into American culture. According to the Revelations in 3976-22, Cayce shared that a significant number of America's impactful cultural movements were directed by souls from Atlantis, who chose to incarnate with the purpose of awakening the American consciousness. This includes the Transcendentalist movement, spearheaded by Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, as well as the New Thought movement that shaped American positive thinking. Even the counterculture movement of the 1960s played a role in this. As Cayce suggests, these were not mere random cultural changes. They were guided by enlightened individuals who were readying America for its spiritual future. Take a moment to reflect on this. Throughout American history, every significant spiritual movement has highlighted the importance of personal, direct connection with the divine. This is not merely coincidental. Cayce's insights indicate that it has all been a groundwork laid for the moment when everyday Americans would acquire remarkable spiritual powers. However, there's a crucial warning from Cayce that must resonate with every American. In his reading 5748-12, he highlighted that the spiritual talents bestowed upon Americans carry tremendous responsibility. He predicted that if these awakened abilities were utilized for self-serving ends instead of serving humanity, the whole mission could be jeopardized. This highlights the importance of your individual spiritual growth for the global community. Whenever you decide to apply your intuitive talents to assist others instead of exploiting them, you play a role in the success of America's mission on this planet. Cayce outlined particular signs that would show whether America was progressing spiritually. He forecasted that children born in the U.S. after the year 2000 would exhibit inherent psychic skills. It will be essential for parents to understand how to nurture children capable of perceiving auras, connecting with spirits, and recalling past existences. The proof is substantial. Researchers in the U.S., such as Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, have recorded thousands of instances involving children with psychic abilities. Educational institutions throughout America are starting to support students who demonstrate heightened sensitivity. This aligns perfectly with what Cayce anticipated. He also foresaw that American adults would begin creating spiritual communities rooted in personal experience as opposed to established religious teachings. These organizations would concentrate on enhancing psychic skills, engaging in energy healing, and assisting one another in their spiritual journeys. Take a look around. Meditation circles, groups for psychic development, and communities focused on energy healing are thriving throughout the United States. Americans are establishing precisely the spiritual foundation that Cayce indicated would be essential for the country's purpose. In his reading 1673-1, Cayce offered what could be considered his most optimistic forecast regarding America's destiny. He recognized that when Americans reconnect with their genuine spiritual essence, they would inherently serve as guides and healers for others around the globe, not by means of preaching or missionary efforts, but merely by embodying the principles of conscious evolution. This phenomenon is already in motion. Spiritual educators from America are affecting millions across the world. Researchers in American consciousness are demonstrating through scientific methods what mystics have long understood. Healing practices from the US are proliferating worldwide due to their effectiveness. The final message about your role in America's mission, as conveyed by the sleeping prophets, is both straightforward and deep. To achieve your spiritual purpose, you don't have to perform extraordinary deeds. Instead, simply recall your true self and embody that genuine spiritual essence. With each meditation, every compassionate act, and every instance where you select love instead of fear, you are engaging in the most significant spiritual experiment in human history. This marks America's shift from a materialistic society to a conscious civilization, where you serve as both a learner and an educator in humanity's next evolutionary advancement. The issue isn't about whether America will achieve its spiritual purpose. Rather, the real question is if you will achieve yours. As indicated by Cayce's insights, there is a deep connection between America's spiritual fate and your individual spiritual awakening. Your soul has chosen to exist in this moment for this specific reason. The moment for awakening has arrived, not just on the horizon, it has arrived. You're not only observing America's spiritual evolution, you're actively participating in it. If this journey into America's spiritual purpose strikes a chord with you, consider subscribing to become part of our community of consciousness explorers. Spread this video to those who are prepared to recognize their part in the awakening of humanity. Additionally, I would love to hear in the comments what spiritual abilities you are nurturing as a contribution to America's prophetic mission to illuminate the path for the world.